So, when we sent you the logistics for getting ready, we also sent you a URL that actually would get you to the Maple portal. Now, the Maple portal has actually been here all year, and people are just now starting to use this think space, this workspace. You know, we talk about being blended and modeling what we're doing. Well, we're trying to do that as the adults because we're talking about all this for the kids. So we're doing it for ourselves as well. And so, I don't know, how many people got to see the online space before coming? Yay! Okay, it's there for you, okay? So, our learning tours are an opportunity for everybody to see what's going on along the pathway to personalizing learning. And we've done 1 or 2 learning tours each month. Aside from May, which is a little harder because we are in the middle of MCAS. But we are now here at North Reading, and there are some specific things about North Reading that we ought to all be curious about. We're going to be able to see how the North Reading educators have focused on fostering data-driven instruction, which we see at many levels with adaptive learning and a lot of use of data to inform what's going on in terms of teacher practice. We get to see robotics, which is a specialty of this, and actually they brought a team to the Learning Innovation Showcase, which was awesome in February. We'll see a little bit about internships, computer science and engineering, and we're lucky in that we are going to see both middle school and high school in our visits at the same time. So there's been a very big push around becoming blended. So you'll be looking at a lot of the integration of what's happening with all the digital technologies. And a big piece of what these learning tours are for is so that both the host district can reflect on what they're doing as they prepare for this, and to get feedback from you guys as to what you observe and what you think and what you wonder about. So we are going to have a context setting with the North Reading folks. We're going to visit 6 classrooms, and we'll go in and out, but have time in between to reflect. And I'm going to get you set up for that before we actually go. We are lucky enough to have a snippet of a robotics demonstration before we all come back together to discuss what we've done and have some lunch, and then we'll have a faculty Q&A. Okay? So now I get to introduce our North Reading hosts. You'll actually see all the teachers and students. I usually have the teachers and students on this, but Dan and I have been working on this PowerPoint together. Somehow that came off, but you fixed it, okay? So Dan, I've got John Bernard here. Where's John? Superintendent, okay? Been here 16 years. So he's really seen the whole pathway and everything spin out, and he's been at the helm of making this all happen. Patrick Daly, and Patrick has been onto this from the very beginning with Future Ready. He'll tell you about that. AJ, right here. Okay, high school principal, and you got to see the whole building happen.
I did,
Plan
absolutely.
it. Okay, and Catherine, middle school. You too?
Yes.
Okay. And now Dan, as Director of Digital Learning, is going to take over and get you guys context set.
I'd just like to give our Superintendent, John Bernard, a few moments to say a couple moments welcoming us.
Sure, thank you, Dan, and welcome to all of you. Ann and I we met before, but we haven't seen each other for a little while, and just in a few minutes that we spoke this morning, she acknowledged the wonderful work that we're doing here in North Reading. She acknowledged the great team of people that I have working with me, and she acknowledged this beautiful building. And so it was so nice to hear all of those things, and they are true. I am very blessed to have a great team of people working with me, including Patrick Daly, the Assistant Superintendent, Dan Downs as our Director of Digital Learning. You'll hear a little bit from Kathy and AJ as our middle school and high school principals, respectively. And they have done a wonderful job planning for today, so it's nice to hear Ann acknowledge the organization of today. We have a lot to show you today. We're very excited about what's going on in North Reading. I think Ann was probably a little more kind than maybe she needed to be in terms of the progress of the work we've made. And I think as we sit and talk about the work we're doing, we think that we're maybe not moving as quickly as maybe we would like to, but Ann doesn't seem to think so. So I'll take Ann's blessing on that. But enjoy today. We hope that you are able to engage in conversation with teachers and students. Obviously, as I hope most superintendents are, I'm very proud of the work that people are doing. I'm certainly very proud of our students. Very proud of this building, but the school itself, it is gorgeous, and we are taking full advantage of all of the things that are available to us, but I think it's really about what's going on in the classrooms, and so my hope is that you can be a sponge today and take as much information from what you see and talk about that, and hopefully bring back to your schools some of what you see here in North Reading. So, Ann, thank you for your leadership on this today. So have fun and enjoy it. Welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, John. So I'm just going to give a little brief kind of encapsulation of the last 4 or 5 years in terms of some of our planning that kind of brought us to where we're at today. A big part of that planning was the strategic planning process of the NRPS 2021. In that was included personalized learning embedded as part of our relationship with Maple. We also started planning out our one-to-one pilot, which has now gone 3 grade levels since the beginning of that strategic planning session. And it also included an expansion of our digital learning specialist model into the elementaries, and also reaffirming what that model was going to be doing not only in the classroom, but also in the middle school, high school areas. 2016-17, we signed on as a Future Ready district right around the same time we joined Maple. It was a great partnership of ideas around personalized learning and strategies. Many of those components are still part of our planning process. And becoming a Catalyst district has definitely empowered us to kind of take many of these components and think mindfully about how we're embedding them into our planning process. Not only in our digital learning technology plan, which was a new plan, a new 3-year plan in 2017-18, that brought in not only the Future Ready work, but it also brought in some of our involvement with Maple and how we plan on moving forward with many of the components of how technology enhances instruction, and also how our instruction shifts to the type of technology that we want to embed in our classroom. 2018-19, we embarked on a much deeper dive with personalized learning with our work with relational coordination, and also deeper work with Maple and embedding some of our STEAM design thinking processes during PD, and also empowering teachers to think more actively around what personalized learning is in their classroom, which also includes some goal setting for students. So these 2 slides essentially break down our digital learning model and support, and our software and instructional resources that we've done over the last probably 4 years. One-to-one learning in classroom CART. So you will see one-to-one learning in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade classroom, but we also have existing CART model, 6th grade, and also 10th, 11th, 12th. So you will see user devices pretty robustly in classrooms even beyond the one-to-one model, as teachers have the choice to include them in their instruction. We also have 3 K-12 digital learning specialists who service the middle school, high school. They are scheduled at different areas and locations around the building. If you're interested, I can introduce you to them. If you want to ask them some questions around some of the support and work that they've done, feel free. We have been doing some digital learning coaching and integration form and reflections. Those are available on the Google site. Those are reflections of some of the work that we've done this year in the classroom in terms of having the specialists reflect on work that goes beyond 10 minutes that is non-text support related work. From a software and instructional resource perspective, we've been a Clever district from 2016, working with streamlining resources in the classroom. Also in 2016, we went online blended math for grades 6 through 12. And in the past 2 years, we've also done online French and chemistry textbooks. So those are some of the instructional resources that we've pushed towards within our one-to-one model. Increased STEAM opportunities for students over the past 3 to 4 years include 2 new high school robotics courses, 2 robotics platforms in the middle school to add variety to that instruction, and a highly successful STEAM night in 2019 to kind of celebrate the work that we have done. I included also in this slide some of our Maple slides from our planning work that also include the links to our strategic plan and digital learning plan. We found these slides that we've done with Maple to be extremely helpful in planning and being thoughtful around our work with personalized learning in Maple. And I also included some of our personalized professional learning topics, some of our reasons and goals, action steps, and success metrics that we have been looking at continually over the course of the year. Many of these hopefully reflect back to what you're seeing in the classrooms today, but these are our overarching goals for instruction in a more personalized way in North Reading. So I'll bring Patrick on. Patrick, you want to say a few words too?
Sure. You want me to speak to anything here?
Yeah, I think Patrick can speak really well to some of the goal setting around what we've done in the Maple group.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Just a very, very quick introduction. So as Dan mentioned, we have our one-to-one program. So that's something you will see here. We introduce devices in grade 7, and then we do 1 grade per year. And we've done professional development 1 year out ahead. So hopefully the teachers have had some PD ahead of time in 7th grade, then the students get the devices. And then the PD model moved up to 8th grade a year before those students came up with their devices, and so on. We had kind of an interesting situation this year where we had a good problem to have. We had some funds available to introduce devices at 9th grade. And so when Dan mentioned that RC model, you'll learn a little bit more about that work that we've done around personalized learning, professional development in the high school this year. And our principals will speak to that a little bit throughout the day as well. And you might hear teachers do that. So that's something we want to have you know, that the question we've asked our teachers, and this may or not be something that they're able to speak to, but the question that we've used is, now that we have devices and technology, what are we doing differently? And we're trying to make sure we're getting at the idea of personalized learning and personalization as something that has, technology as a tool to get you there. So if I hear teachers say those things, I'm very happy because it's not the device itself. It's obviously it's the concept that we want them to fully understand. But there's a lot of work that's still to be done. So we're very excited about that. So Dan, I was going to introduce the principals as well, or did you want so? Kathy O'Connell and AJ LaPrette, our principals, have been here, and this is a great, as you can see, this is a combined building, and so we thought it would be great to have you hear from sort of both principals together, and we did a combined walk, which is a little different than some of the walks I've been on, so you're going to get to see a little bit of both schools, and we kind of designed the day so you're seeing different aspects of the different classes at the different levels, so we're very excited. Kathy and AJ.
Welcome, everyone. We're glad you're here. We're excited to bring you around our school. I think at the middle school, the biggest development over the last few years has been the one-to-one technology. And I think if you're familiar at all with adaptive change and technical change, we put the technical change on hold and did the adaptive work with the teachers in advance of the Chromebooks coming along. And I think that made a huge difference with the essential question up there of changing, so what? Now they have Chromebooks, so it's going to look different. And I think that was really impactful at the middle school. Something else that we've been doing, I think maybe for 3 or 4 years, is pre and post iReady diagnostic, which is an adaptive online math assessment and reading assessment. And we've been using that quite effectively to gather baseline data in September, again in January, and then in June for intervention groups, for, obviously for remediation and also for the teachers to guide their curriculum. So those 2 things have been really helpful at the middle school.
Certainly, and at the high school. So, we certainly, inheriting the students as they progress toward the high school, we want to make sure that there's not a drop off in kind of what am I used to, what's the technology that's accessible to me. So, as we are now transitioning kind of from our CART model to our freshman students with a one-to-one device. Which certainly, has enhanced that experience. The CART model has been effective for us, and it certainly has been in place for a number of years. So teachers have, I think, been comfortable with that. But then, as Patrick had mentioned earlier, that idea of saying, this device in your hands is not the curriculum; it's simply the tool. So how do we, get closer to kind of reaping the most benefit we can from that? Our work around kind of having a definition of personalized learning that the faculty feel comfortable with is ongoing. The work that we've had with the relational coordination team has been beyond helpful for us, helping us kind of identify some goals, direct our actions, think about our culture and our building, and how do we take something as powerful as a device like this that can really impact learning, and how do we want to effectively incorporate into our instruction, into our classrooms. The fact that we have a 78-minute block, I think really is beneficial for this model, because I think it's exactly those things. Like, we're going to introduce, you can explore, you can collaborate, you can report back, and all of those kind of pieces of the lesson that need to happen, with the long block really do. And I think that's really where our faculty, I think, feel most comfortable. And again, we're trying to identify those things that can, I think, maximize that model. We've seen a lot of different schools come through and look at our block schedule and transition to it. So we think we're on the right track with that. But again, getting teachers comfortable with personalized learning in its guiding sense for us as the school.
So, Chromebooks first. All right, so open up your Chromebooks, get into Google Classroom, and then do the quick quiz. Then move on to the videos. If you need help, raise your hand. It is. They love it.
Up. So if you don't know what a flamenco is, Google it. See what you find. Does one of these clues match up with flamenco? If you don't know what paella is, Google it. See if you can find the clue that matches up. Vámonos.
Is it C? Oh yeah.
Un baile. ¿Qué es un baile de España? Flamenco, sí. Para bailar. Hay salsa, tango. Flamenco está en España. La capital de España es Madrid.
So for this event plan, it goes through a bunch of different things. It goes through sheets, it goes through docs, it goes through the calendar, and it goes through, I feel like there's one more thing. So like for each one, it gives them a lesson on those.
Okay.
And they can go through it, they have the link, they have everything with that, so they can go through it at their own pace if they want. Or if they're following along with me, they can also go through it as I'm showing them the videos. But if they forget something, they can go back and rewatch the videos. They can obviously ask me questions, ask their neighbor questions.
So what's the first one? Not me.
Yeah, so you're gonna just create, these are your headings, and then, is this yours? Let's go down. Well, it's not mine, and then, so yeah, so then this is your examples of like other ones, you keep scrolling, I'm sure it's gonna get into the who, what, so like feedback on your business, feedback to this, what they liked, what they didn't like. So this is just basically how you can go ahead and organize your Google Doc to look like this, except well, I'll be right there, but what is it? Is it quicker?
Almost a couple of moments.
again, to tie into because he's going to show you something he's been doing.
There's two lights here, an infrared one and a visible light one. It will read the reflection from the floor here.
Traversing without even getting in line. Come on. It's just about to. Hold on, wait for it.
Issue you're having with this one is these. I'll show you how it works. So we have two of these sort of spike things that'll drive. They're driven by these two motors here. What they would do is they'd pick the robot's front end up, and then this would try to catch the stair to pull the rest of it up and bring it over. But as you can see, that looks a little too big to be like the size of a typical stair. So the way he works, it's kind of like construction equipment where you have these two will control the left and right sides. Takes a minute to get paired up. So this guy here is a test with a four-wheel drive system that the Tetrix doesn't provide the four-wheel drive by itself. So we have to put it through these two, and we kind of trick the computer into thinking that one set's a servo, which the servo is kind of like these but on a smaller scale. And then these here are direct current motors, so that way they're more powerful than these are. So he'll
They take
Are you in a debug mode here, or should it like? So we have to have singular test programs, and then we make a final project. Okay. So we're not allowed to do the final project unless we get the whole thing done with the singular test
Still going sideways.
Yeah. Forward. After that, can we show you until the ultrasonic sensor detects the thing.
Nice.
Where?
Just putting this into focus. Yes. Yes. I think one more, that's the right distance.
That's our break status.
Okay.
Does this work?
Yeah, did you do an open to
Yeah.
match that?
And then
Yeah, now, I think you're gonna have to modify that, though. It looks like it's closing too much over that can, so you want to fine tune it with the can,
okay.
right? Because if it goes too far, it's gonna like.
yeah.
So this here is kind of our robot that we tested everything we started with. So pretty much he was the first one we built, first one we made autonomous, first one we put remotes on. So pretty much all he'll do is just go around the room, detect a wall, and avoid that wall. So as you'll see here, once he gets it going, you can go all the way over here, and then there's a sensor on there where he'll detect something, then he'll just keep spinning. Oh. He'll just keep spinning until he doesn't detect the wall anymore, and then go towards that object. You see he detected the wall back there, spin around, and that's pretty much all he does. He was just there for us to start learning the basics of the autonomous mode with this robot. So that
And that's a Tetrix.
Yes, this is called Tetrix. So the computer on it is called an Arduino. It's pretty much a miniature computer. Can connect all your sensors into it through the ports here. And it has these little motors that we were experimenting with. And then also, in the kit that we have, it was called a line follow sensor. Unfortunately, it broke off. We need to get a new bracket for that. And then this guy right here, another one of our first experimental robots. This was kind of get our bearings together on, this will go forward. Oh. All right. So pretty much all he was to do is just get us with the big robot sort of deal. That guy's a little small compared to this guy. And we gave a freshman a book and told him which one he wants us to build. And of course, they picked the difficult one. So this guy is pretty much one of our, once again, our first robots. So he has basic motors on him, nothing too complicated. We did experiment with a computer on him, but just decided the remote's easier. And he dances. Which I'd show you, but the wheel fell off. And now, this guy is going to be a little more complicated. Ugh. So as you can see, there are 3 massive batteries on this guy. So what each battery does is this one controls your front motors. So this guy, he's 4-wheel drive. Now Tetrix doesn't provide kits that can do 4-wheel drive out of the book. So you have to go find your own resources and figure out how to do this 4-wheel drive system yourself. And the way we did it is we have these 2 computers here. So this one controls the back wheels, this one controls the front. It plugs right into this little receiver here. And so each, sorry, I'm trying to get it sorted. So each of the axes on the joystick control each motor. Or not each motor, but each front and back independently. And then the purpose for the 3 batteries is one powers the back, that one would power the front. And then we tried experimenting with an autonomous mode on him. Didn't quite work out in our favor. So that's what this is powering. This would power the computer in there. Let me show you what he looks like running around. So as you see, he has more power than what some of the other robots are showing. That's from that 4-wheel drive system that is able to provide more power to the wheel. And now what this guy was originally going to be used for was a search and rescue project that we were going to be working on. It was going to take a while. However, Tetrix doesn't provide enough sensors to do this project. So therefore, we couldn't go through with it. However, we are finding aftermarket sensors that we might be able to use if we wanted to keep this project going and keep it alive. Joel, you want to go over that one?
Sure. So this robot here is called Clawbot. He's a Vex robot. We make a lot of these in our Vex robotics class that we have going on downstairs. So basically, it's a pretty simple robot. It has 2 motors in the bottom right there, to control the chassis, and a motor right here to control this claw, which flips down, and it can pick stuff up. This specific configuration, we use it for the minefield challenge, where there were a bunch of PVC pipes on the floor, which had balls on top, and we designed the claw to specifically go up through the PVC pipe and pick the ball up, and then we had to drop it in a bin. So the program that I have on here is just a basic control program that makes it go around it. We also have sensors. So we have a touch sensor on the front, ultrasonic sensor right there, and a limit switch would be on the bottom, but I don't think this one has it, and we have some line followers down there. So, basic movement, and the claw goes up and down. And that's basically what it is.
So what it has to do is there are plastic balls on top of the PVC pipes, and within a certain time limit, there are 2 parts to the challenge. One part is joystick operated, which is what Joel demonstrated. Another part is autonomous. So within a certain time limit, you have to take the plastic balls and deposit them in certain areas, and that's hence the name, the minefield challenge. You're basically diffusing mines. So it sort of ties into real world happenings.
Well, speaking of real world happenings, right here, so right here is the prototype for this robot. This is going to become a stair climber in the not so distant future. So we built this one, and then we realized it's too big. So we got this little guy now, which we're pretty much going to take everything off of this robot, make it a little bit smaller, and put it on this guy. And basically the way he'll work, put it on the ground. And so back here there'll be 2 pegs to lift up the whole front end, and then this track right here will catch the stair and bring him up the stairs. In which case he'll then retract these and then go up the stair and then just keep doing that until he gets to the top. So now Another issue we had was there wasn't enough power because on this one we have 2 motors. And unlike the Tetrix that I was explaining earlier, Vex out of the box allows for 4-wheel drive motors. So we took advantage of that and we put 4 on this guy. And so now JP wants to run him around. So he's just a little guy, he's gonna go up the stairs, all that. Just kind of get the basics of stair climbing down, and then we could maybe try and get this guy working on a bigger set of stairs. But for what we have in the school now, this guy's perfect for the size stairs. Oh, and we lost connection.
So we have his first prototype and now his second.
Cool. There goes the battery. Oh. Alright, you guys have any questions about anything? You.
How long does it take to make like one of these?
So it depends. So this guy is going to be going for a little bit here because we got to transfer everything over, get the programs working and all that. So this guy took a couple of months, but that was mostly because we were testing different things with him. Him we finished in about a month. Didn't take too long because Vex gave us the book with the instructions on how to build it. This robot took a little while because we were experimenting with him as well. It all just depends on the size of what you want to do, how complex it is, and if the robot company provides instructions in the book on how to do a certain thing. So like this guy required online research because we didn't know how to get the 4-wheel drive working what we wanted. So it all really depends on complexity, size, and all that.
You use the word "we" in just about every sentence.
Yep.
I'm curious if you could talk a little bit about who is we and how do you work together and how did you learn to work together? What's the team like?
Certainly. So during Power Block, we have this thing called Change Team, which is where kids who are interested in computers, robots, and anything will go there and just converge ideas. So we have a small team. It was me and one of my other friends. We had an idea for this, the search and rescue robot. So we did our research, thought of an idea, kind of drew it out a little bit, and then just started building it. And then, since this is a class robot, you have a whole sort of team in that class. And so you work with that team to get the challenges done and all that sort of stuff. And same thing with all of these robots. It's all one team-based thing.
And are you working under the supervision of an instructor or?
Yep, that'd be right here, Miss Dasho.
And I'm also curious about so I know you mentioned that in one of the kind of robot prototypes that you had, you kind of experienced some challenges and kind of with batteries and things. So how do you kind of work through those problems as they arise, and kind of what's the process like for overcoming the challenges?
Yeah. So for this guy, this is the easiest example, and also the most common example that we had. So like I said, Vex doesn't provide systems to do 4-wheel drive out of the box in the kit that you get. So it was just hours of going through the internet, seeing if people have done it before, how they did it, and we found a bunch of different areas that we could do it in. But we decided that the 2-computer system was probably the best route that we could have gone. There were other ones where you could get it running off of 1, but it was more complicated and a little more risky. So we decided 2 is the safest, and so we just go through, look at the risk level of each idea and how it would affect the robot if something were to fail, which nothing has.
That's sort of the purpose of Change Team, is not only are they sort of a high school help desk, but it's an opportunity for them during Power Block to pursue interest and ideas that interest them, that have to do with technology.
I'd love to hear more about Power Block.
Power Block,
what that is.
So we have 3 lunches,
Yeah.
and so you go to one of those lunches. And so while one class is eating lunch, there's a whole study hall going on with 2 separate classes, well, not classes, but study halls during that lunch. And so then you just keep on swapping out. So there's first lunch, and while people are eating first lunch, there's people in their study hall classes. And then there's second lunch, where the people from first lunch will either go to band or change team or back to their Power Blocks. It's kind of like just a homeroom study hall sort of deal during the lunch period.
Can I expand on that just a little bit as the principal?
Yes, you can.
Thank you. No, so I mean, there's certainly a portion of it that is, let's say, a study hall, and that I'm in a supervised setting and I'm working on homework.
Sure.
Or there's a we organize them by grade for the most part. So I might be, able to collaborate with another student who I'm sharing class with anyway. But beyond that, it allows an opportunity for students to meet with teachers because they're supervising a power block. So I might sign out of my power block and sign into your power block and get some help on a certain assignment. I might go to the National Honor Society, which has its own power block, and get some peer tutoring. I might meet with my guidance counselor, because when does that happen across 4 78-minute blocks during your school day? So that power block really allows a lot of the other stuff that's supposed to happen, and an opportunity for you to work on some homework, or to meet with a teacher, get some extra help. So we found the model to be really helpful.
And when you refer to change team, how does that, I'm not sure what that.
Yeah, so in working with Dan Downs, and identifying opportunities for students with specific interests to get more out of their high school experience. That kind of change team kind of grew out of that. Like, hey, we've got some kids with an interest, what can we do? So while the robotics course is a year-long 1-credit course, change team is kind of an opportunity for kids to come out of power block and spend some time doing something else. A little more flexibility.
And Change Team isn't just robots. We have a bunch of kids who are interested in video game development. So they're working on making their own video game right now in a game engine called Unity. Very versatile, has a lot of things they can do with it. Good for them to start out with learning how to program video games.
Also, just to give another kudo to Change Team, I'm sure all of you have heard of the Hour of Code. During the Hour of Code week, we brought some of the students, the high school students on Change Team, down to the elementary schools and demonstrated these robots and another product called Bloxels, which is simplified game development for more the elementary. We brought them down to the elementary schools during, during their power code block, and had them demonstrate to the elementaries, again, to show that there's a growth path, from elementary to middle to high school. So that worked out really nicely. They did a great job during the Hour of Code week.
Any other questions?
Thank you so much.
Nice job, guys.
So thank you, everyone. We hope you enjoyed your learning tour. This is a great chance for you to ask some questions. We'll just have the folks give a little bit of an introduction here, talk about who you are, just a quick soundbite about who you are, and talk a little bit about what personalized learning means to you and how that sort of impacts you in your role. Just a little quick overview soundbite, and then we'll get some questions from the audience that'll help facilitate the panel.
So Kathy O'Connell, middle school principal. To me, personalized learning has a lot to do with adaptive learning and learning at your own pace in my mind. And I always think of choice and giving kids options. Those are just the quick things that come to my mind.
Catherine Jones, 8th grade history. Similar for personalized learning, as a classroom teacher, trying to differentiate and give kids choices and make the curriculum more accessible. And as a tie-in, we have found, this is our second year with Chromebooks in our classroom. Last year was a cart, and this year it's the one-to-one. And the opportunities to use them to allow for more differentiation, for more personalization is there. And it's just the beginning, so it's pretty exciting.
AJ LaPretta, principal of high school. When I think about personalized learning, I think what comes to my mind most is the kind of idea of maximized engagement. And I will say that I think one of the things that I wonder about as kind of we navigate to a more effective definition for our faculty is just kind of being prepared for the other side of that question is saying, well, how do we say to students, well, but it's also about breadth. And while it is a lot about depth, we do want to think about breadth and saying, your choice should include these other things too, so that you have a real broad experience and a broad base of the skills.
Shelley Kerrigan. I teach biology, AP environmental science, and academic environmental science. So definitely with that, my freshman will have to take the MCAS in June. My AP class has a test on May 6th. That the curriculum is very prescribed. So for me, I'm viewing this more, I've been doing the UDL, I'm one of the UDL coaches for the school. So I view the personalized learning more from like the UDL lens. So that's how I've been doing it.
Jim Scroy, I'm a digital learning specialist here at the high school and the middle school. And personalized learning to me, kind of just to reiterate what pretty much everybody else has said at this point, is it is adaptive learning and about student choice. And I look at the technology lens when I look at personalized learning to see how can we blend that into the curriculum to try and have the kids get the most out of it.
Amy St. Arnaud, Curriculum Coordinator of World Languages and Spanish teacher. I'll echo what AJ said. Personalized learning to me is engagement, and especially in a classroom where we're teaching communication. Those who came to my class today, first, having kids communicate about things that are personal to them. We played 2 truths and a lie, so they had a chance to, do their own thing, talk about their own lives, and then also when we're learning vocab, instead of just feeding them like book-generated lists, trying to adapt it, for example, where students can start to fill in their own words for things that are interested in them. We did like clothing choices, for example, so they could fill in like their own style instead of me just generating them book-generated lists. So little snapshots of personalized learning.
Kathy Dasho, robotics and web design teacher. And again, I agree with everything the whole panel has said, but I also have to throw in a couple of robotic terms. You just saw the demo with my kids, autonomous learning. I try to do that in both my web design and my robotics class. A degree of autonomy steered a little by the joystick by me.
So now I guess we'll open it up for questions. Patrick and I will try to find, we'll maybe point to the person who might be thinking best kind of maybe handle it, or if someone wants to jump in. Anyone have any questions for any of our staff?
All right, well, thank you for welcoming us. Thanks for welcoming us. It's been a really great day. I'm curious how much autonomy teachers have in developing curriculum. If we had gone into another humanities class, would we have seen a similar lesson, or does it really vary teacher to teacher?
I can speak from the biology teacher perspective because there are 4 of us who are all teaching biology this year. And this year we've been rewriting our curriculum to align with the new standards. So we do have like certain points that we're all trying to get through. And a lot of the activities we do will be the same, but we all definitely have our own teaching style. So I'd say at the high school at least, I don't know if it's different in the middle school because you guys have teams, but we have the curriculum, but it's a framework, and then individual teachers make their own choices.
Can you talk a little bit about how you use data in your classes to inform? I heard you talk a lot about personalized learning as differentiating, providing that voice and choice for students and their needs. So how do you use data in the district? Like, you can talk about various departments or.
I'll say certainly at the high school, I think just to speak maybe big picture, and then if a classroom teacher wants to go a little more in depth. But we've had and implemented kind of common assessment strategies for a number of years now. So my belief is that as we look to those common assessments, which may vary across a certain number of, at least these 7 points of kind of department determined, we're all going to have addressed this, or we're all going to have addressed that in some capacity. That those common assessments really allow for a guiding opportunity for the curriculum and what the instruction is. And then kind of beyond that, now I'm going to look at my cohort and what really are their strengths, what are their areas that I want to focus on. We do a lot of kind of pre-assessment things and a lot of formative assessment to guide as we go. And, so I think it's kind of like common assessment data at that top level, kind of early assessment data, and then formative assessments to, at the functional level. That's it.
I would just add at the middle school, and I mentioned that earlier, iReady is very helpful for us because it is an adaptive diagnostic tool and it really gives you a picture of where the student's strengths and weaknesses are. And then also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that we focus a lot on behavioral data and social emotional data, and we try to incorporate that into, certainly at the middle school with our team model, we're talking a lot about kids, so I feel it's important just to mention that emotional piece of data as well as the academic piece.
Just as a classroom teacher that has access to the technology, it's easy to grab the data for small formative assessments. It can take literally just a couple of minutes, and I call them check-ins. They count, but just for a minimal amount of points. And within 2 minutes, I can see which kids don't get what we did the day before that. And it's just, and they don't, we do it so often, or I do it so often that they don't even know what I'm doing. Yeah.
From a department point of view, where we don't have MCAS tests, I can speak briefly. We've started the Seal of Biliteracy program, and for those of you that are familiar with it, we've started giving the stamp test. So now I'm able to see if, right now we're just doing our level 5, but our top level, but hopefully we can do others as well. If they're meeting our target that we've set, so we have an outside group, telling us if we're on track. So kind of testing results, but then kind of as Catherine said, I've been using Google Forms quite a bit. I just finished doing one as the new quarter was about to start, got great feedback from the kids about everything from, was this graphic organizer helpful, was this vocab list helpful, to one of the questions I asked was, do you like to create at home, or do you like to do photocopies, like kind of rote practice at home? And so using kind of that data on learning styles or whatnot, I was able to adapt into my class. And I think a lot of teachers are doing that sort of thing.
I would add to that with big ideas with math. The data is almost a daily kind of review in terms of where the students are at, and that's 6 through 12. So I know the teachers are using it, giving assignments, seeing where students are at, daily progress monitoring. That it's amazing what they can kind of tell you before they start to share the next lesson and find out where students are at. Very helpful.
I guess I have a question more about biology. You said that your interpretation of the personalized learning for like a MCAS course with a particular standards, like, is that you do UDL? I wasn't sure what that was, and if you could give an example of what you
So UDL, Universal Design for Learning, so the idea of like trying to make the curriculum accessible for all students, not just the average student. So this is the first year that we're really working on it, and there are like 10 teachers at the high school who are working on it. And it's just, a lot of it is about choice, giving them like, you have a choice between you can watch this video or you can read this textbook section, or you can write your response, or you could use Flipgrid to give us an oral response. And even little things like, I show a video, I put the closed captioning on, just so that way if there are kids who do better with reading information, they have that. It's not, and I'm not telling kids, you need to watch this video, you need to read, you need to do that. So a lot of it is about empowering kids to kind of make their own decisions too about how they want to access. So it's about engagement, accessing the information, and then also like their output. So within a reasonable framework, so it's not just like, do whatever you want.
So my question is kind of about the management of all of this. I see you have the Chromebook rollout, the one-to-one. You're incorporating elements of UDL. I saw a lot of choice in the assignments I went into. You have digital learning specialists. How do you kind of coordinate it all and manage it all so that it grows organically with the teachers, but it's not just pockets, that it's kind of moving forward as a school, as a district?
I could answer that. I would say, the specialists play a large role in that. My work with Patrick plays a large role in that. Patrick has, curriculum goals. I have kind of, how are we best putting the technology in place to support what we want to have the students be able to do. So from that take, I regularly have the specialists kind of review with me what types of work they're doing in the classroom and really try to meet the teachers around instructional goals that they have, so that organically the teachers can kind of develop the way they want to, but they always essentially feel supported around the tools, can make recommendations around the tools they want to use, and support them from the ground up, so that, you know, teachers are enabled by the technology, don't see it as a hindrance, you know. And then I think, you know, we were very thoughtful around the types of products we choose. I mean, some are easier to integrate into a classroom more seamlessly. Some, like Big Ideas Math, is a full spectrum of math, you know. So the challenges that come with that is embedding it so that all students have equal access. What's the filtering look like at home and at school? Basically any, you know, kind of big picture technology question comes to how we're going to filter and provide the devices for the student to access it 24/7. But then in the big picture, how are we supporting on the day-to-day with how they're doing it? So the specialists, you know, I try to have them work on, you know, creating and working on those relationships in the buildings to support the teachers with what they want to use, and support those hopefully until they move to that next level of growth and can share and support other teachers who want to move in that direction. So we've had a lot of planning sessions, both in the one-to-one when we rolled that out, to kind of strategically think about what are the highest gains and values as we enhance and increase in technology. And then as we moved into the high school, it's increasing the access for the teachers, and it's also supporting them with what are the new types of things that they want to do with this increased access. So it's, you know, it's always a work in progress.
Just real quick. I would just say too, our strategic plan, our district's strategic plan really lays out a 5-year plan that everything, I think, is aligned to, and then our school improvement plans obviously follow that, and then we try to have our educators choose goals that are in line with the strategic plan and also the school improvement plan, so that it's aligned.
You know, I was going to say that too, that kind of those big picture pieces need to be in place, but like the strategic plan, like the you know, the 5-year plan. But I also say that it's the communication and the trust piece that is the grease that kind of keeps it going, in that sense of, I mean, you know, there's obviously something called over communication, but when the communication is at a place where, you know, that the exchange of information and the questions that are asked are relevant, and the information to say, you know what, maybe we still have pockets, or yeah, this is still a problem. Like, let's not just kind of talk about what we hope it looks like, but let's be honest enough to say, yeah, we're still here, or we're still there, and that's taken more work than I thought it would be, you know, would have. So I think those are conversations that are grounded in, I think, the faith that we all have in each other as the leadership team.
I'll just jump in quick. You know, my PowerPoint this summer, the admin team was about connecting the dots, because I think we all understand the value, and I hear from teachers too. We want to do one thing, do it well, focus, go deep. At the same time, it's not linear necessarily, right? And so there's a perception that personalized learning now replaced UDL, which replaced differentiation, which replaced UPD, which are, you know, those are all still around, and they're all still connected, and they all still have a role. So we sort of have pockets. So Brett and I are in a group where we have a shared UDL coach among leagues. Shelley was referencing that a little bit. So we have teams at each school doing that, and we have goals, and we gave some goals to lead folks to form these small groups. So having pockets is okay, as long as those are your early majority that then are sort of getting some other people, you know, invested over time. So
yeah,
but that's part of it.
I'll add to that with the UDL staff, so 2 of us at the high school who did the training in June, we recruited, sent an email, who else wants to do it? We had 8 other teachers who were like, yeah. So we've done some after school stuff with them. They've been working with Emily as well. But then even in conversations at lunchtime and in the teacher's room, we have other teachers who aren't officially doing the UDL thing this year that are like, oh, wait, I'm going to UDL this. We've turned it into a verb. I don't know if it is. But so I think there is a lot of like organic part to it that on a faculty level, because we know what they're doing up in like the district level and all of that, but even in like classrooms and in the teacher room, we see that a lot of it is, you know, just when we share ideas, and I'm sure you guys all see that in your schools too. So
that's great. It's great to hear, Shelley. Thank you.
And at the middle school, that we have teams, so we have certain early adapters, right? But that shares out in our teams, and through the department, we're working on, to answer, this circles back to your question about curriculum in different areas. Different teachers within the same discipline, are they accessing technology and learning styles similarly? I know science had new frameworks, we have new frameworks too in history, and so we're trying to tie some of those common, not just assessments, but common experiences to some of the technology and the learning experiences, so every student gets access to similar lessons and experiences, at least 6, 8.
I'm curious on a sort of more pragmatic level, when professional development happens, when department meetings happen. I'm also curious what a full teaching load is at the middle school and high school. How many classes will teach?
Middle school teachers, it varies depending on the grade, either 4 or 5 classes. And actually we have each of the grades is on their own schedule, so it's a little bit of a 3-ring circus. We have curriculum meetings after school once a month. We also have a leadership team that Catherine mentioned once a month, a separate meeting. And professional development, Patrick does a great job of organizing district-wide professional development on early release days and full days throughout the year. Sometimes those are building-based, and sometimes they're district-wide.
And then built into that with the team model, the teams meet, we're a 6-day cycle, so the teams meet 4 out of the 6 as a team.
So the high school has its alternating days, its 4-block schedule, so A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, green and gold. Teachers teach 5 of the 8. And so on one day you get essentially 1 prep and 3 classes, on the other day you have a duty, a prep and 2 classes. And your other question around the PD and the meeting times, so departments meet, so we have we take the Mondays, there's a faculty meeting on the first Monday, there's a leadership team on the second Monday, there's a department meeting on the third Monday. And then what we like to do is talk about, kind of once a week department. Collaboration time is on a certain day when they should, to work within your department to problem solve or whatever.
We have 2 full days a year and 5 half days, and the half days are usually on Fridays, which is a little interesting, but it's worked out well. We survey our staff after all the time, and they do seem to like that. Sometimes it's leading into a long weekend even, but there's pros and cons to it, but overall we do like that model. We tried to lead with a lot of personalized professional development, so there's been a lot of choice-driven days. We've had those for our full days for a few years, but this year we've allowed time just for teachers to work on their goals and to work individually. So trying to model that idea of personalized learning for the educators so that they can reflect a little bit about why this worked for me and why this is also good for the students in the class. So that's still, we're in the early stages of that, but that's something we started with Future Ready. We did to try to look at that personalized professional development.
Also from digital learning perspective, we offer PD before and after school, and also the digital learning specialists in the elementaries do the same. And we do meet with the teachers, at least at the middle school level, for their curriculum meetings. Yeah. And we basically take polls and what are you interested in? What do you want to know about? And we'll do the research and then offer it as a PD.
Nice. And I'll say too, just from a budget point of view, at least in my department, our budget is generous enough that I'm able to bring in guest speakers, but also any conferences that my teachers want to go to, we haven't had to say no yet. So we have enough in our budget to support our teachers to pursue their interests outside the building.
I'm kind of going along with teacher training on personalized learning. I'm wondering if students, it might be a shift from a more traditional classroom to kind of having more open-endedness. Like a lot of the classes we observed with the students, or actually all of them, the students were on task. I was just very surprised at how well everybody was, and I don't know, it was very well ordered. And I'm wondering, are there any systems in place in your school, like either in classes or students are trained in kind of how to approach maybe more independence in learning or in time management?
I'll say first, at the high school we have longer blocks, and so I think our high school students need to employ all those skills to make it through a block, where it's longer. So So yes, that's part of everything we do. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say it's just the classroom culture and kind of establish it. Early on, a lot of times I'll use a timer and project a timer up on the board, like you have 8 minutes to do this, just to, again, kids a little bit of those skills that they need to figure out what they're going to do. I think it helped, honestly, that all these strange adults came into the room too, that the kids were all like when I was like, oh, Mr. LaPrette's in the room, look at them, they're all like, we're gonna work together on this. And so I think that probably helped too, but they are, overall, our students are really well behaved.
I think we do, like from the classroom point of view, I think we do a great job, like with the social emotional curriculum and building character in our students. And overwhelmingly, we find our students to be very respectful and, you know, just willing to contribute positively to our community. I think a student who's not doing those things is definitely an outlier, not the majority that we have here. And then also too, I mean, just like I was saying with the longer blocks and, you know, students just really needing to manage time and whatnot. Once, you know, freshman class, for example, they're coming from a traditional 45 or 50-minute block or so to our, you know, 80-minute, like 78, 80-minute block, and they make that transition very smoothly. And, you know, sometimes I ask them just for fun, or like on the half days when we have like 45-minute blocks, I'm like, do you wish every day was like this? Do you like it? They're like, no, too fast. And, you know, so they, you know, so I guess we just, you know, we prepare them well to, you know, make that transition with their timing. And also with that longer block, they have class every other day, so there's a huge time management piece at home where, like, when an assignment's given, it's not due the next day, it's due 2 days later, or a long weekend or a weekend. Sometimes there could be 5 days, a snow day, 6, 7. So you know, we certainly work on those skills.
I think there are a number of you know, also ingredients to the culture that kind of allow for, I think, maybe what you saw, the empowerment of, I think, upperclassmen and you know, lowerclassmen to a degree, but we've got a number of, you know, the student council on campus is very active and very interactive, both kind of within our student body and outside. So that's a very appealing thing for kids that want to get involved in something like that. Our SLAM group, our mentoring program, so all the freshmen are assigned a mentor through our, you know, upperclassmen leadership academy. Those kids go through leadership training. They meet with their incoming freshmen prior to the start of school. So there are a number of steps kind of in place along the way, even with, you know, access to the National Honor Society for peer tutoring during Power Block Day. So I think that idea of kind of students helping students empowered to help shape the culture that they want, and you know, just a historically good example of the upperclassmen. Kind of saying, listen, we want to keep the school where we like it, where we know it works well, where it's focused, and I think they do a good job and kind of, you know, maintaining that within their own interactions.
Well, I think that reflection on culture is a great place for us to segue, but we want to thank our panel so much for being a part of this and for all the great things you do for our students and our schools. So thank you, folks.